Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to the Healthy Hair Chat, y'all, with your girls from the Healthy Hair Studio. We are excited that you guys are joining us today. Carl, take over because I got to get this phone.
Okay. Good morning, and good morning to some, grand rising to others. I know everybody has their different greetings they say in the morning, but we just coming to you today from the Healthy Hair Studio. I am Kay Strands. I am Cara Calor with Kay Strands. Excuse me, let me say that better. And we're just coming to you today to discuss a couple topics in reference to natural hair and relaxed hair and transitioning. If you choose to transition from relaxed hair to um, a natural hair. Also, we wanted to just say, um, bring awareness to what is it? Autism Awareness Month. I don't know why I'm making like I can't remember what I got to say today, but it is Autism Awareness Month, and I am actually wearing the color blue for autism, and that is just to give you some information on reference to what it is, and some tips that you can do with your children if they do have the disorder, and how we can service them, and tips on how to do their hair if they have the disorder. So we'll go back and discuss some of the transition and tips that we have when you are relaxed and transitioning to a natural hairstyle.
All right, y'all. Sorry about that. I'm away, but listen, we are committed, y'all, to the journey. We are committed to helping you guys maintain your healthy hair. And so, like Carl said, this month, our topic, we're going to talk about different textures and natural versus relaxed. I know we have that conversation a lot. What does that look like? Some people say my hair is, I have color in my hair, but I'm still natural. All those kind of things. So we're just going to talk about. We're going to have the dialogue around natural versus relax, just to give you guys a better understanding. What does it mean to transition? What is that process going to look like Carl said? And so we're going to dive right into it. I pray you guys are having an amazing day. Tag y'all friends. Tell them to come in. Feel free to ask your questions. Drop your questions in the chat so that we can answer them for you. All right. So we're going to talk about relaxed hair versus natural hair. Okay. Relaxed hair versus natural hair. And how do you choose what is best for you? And I know right now there's a lot of controversy around relaxers. I know there are lawsuits and different things, and we're not really going to dive too much into that. I cannot say personally. I've had any clients that have experienced anything. I can't say personally what they would do because I have not done any research on it to know and to say what it is. So, again, it's always something that is something you'll have to know. We'll give you from our side, the professional side of what we know concerning relaxers, and we can speak from that side, but I cannot speak from that other side as it pertains to whatever's happening. Okay, so let's just start there. But there is this always this conversation about relaxed hair, and that people that are relaxed, your hair is damaged, or your hair is going to be damaged, or you can't have healthy hair and be relaxed. So, Carl, what do you say to that? Like, how do you feel about that conversation as far as relaxers and damaged hair and different things like that?
I definitely feel like it's dependent on the application.
Yeah,
A lot of times, people hear that they hear, and even they think about, people have that running thing like, oh, if I never got a relaxer, I would have had long hair, and a
yeah,
lot of the over processing of the product. A lot of times they weren't using a professional brand of relaxer. Sometimes they use those calcium, we call them calcium relaxers that are inside of the hair store, and they are smoothing that hair. A lot of times when I just have a casual conversation with clients, they normally say, I'll say, well, so what you used to use? Did you used to,
yeah.
well, like they say, I use a super. Well, I don't think anybody needs a super relaxer. There's
Mm,
nobody that I've touched or never done their hair that needed a super. So that was a lot of times that's the biggest misconception, is just using the wrong strength of relaxer,
that's
using the wrong type of relaxer, and then also over processing that relaxer by continuously applying it to the whole, from the scalp to ends, over and over and over and over. So you're
yeah,
breaking it down, it's breaking the hair down, it's popping the hair off. When I started doing hair, I started off as a shampoo tech in the salon I worked at that time. That was back in 2010 was Icons, and I worked with those ladies. All the ladies had relaxers back then, and all of their hair were very healthy, but they always came to the salon. A lot of times they did a lot of roller wraps. They wore a lot of roller sets, and they kept their hair wrapped up, and then they just really took really good care of their hair. But they always came to the stylist, and the stylist that I worked for, she definitely practiced not overlapping that relaxer and that chemical. So
So
you
important.
can have relaxed hair and still have healthy hair. It just all depends on your lifestyle and ultimately what you want for your hair. It's up to you as a person.
Absolutely. I think that's a lot of times when I'm dealing with my clients, that's always, this is why the consultation aspect is so important, when we're talking to our clients and you guys, for you to be honest, right? Because there are some times when even if your hair might be able to hold it. When we talk about medications, we talk about different conditions, autoimmune diseases, and different things that you have going on in your body. Now, there are moments where we may not think it's the best decision for you, because it is a chemical, right? Chemical reaction. You don't know. I don't know how your body, based off of medications and what you have going on, may reflect or may have an interaction as far as like relaxers, or may make it, your because of your conditions, it makes your hair follicles weaker, right? And then we throw a relaxer on top of that, what's already weak, and it can create a even weaker, hair strand and follicle. So there are things, this is why the consultation, this is why I'll say this, you shouldn't do it at home, right? Don't just slap a relaxer in your head, at home, but make sure you go and consult with the professional, because we can do a proper consultation with you to see if all the way around this is a better decision for you. Sometimes we've done relaxers because it's better for your lifestyle. I just want to do this and I don't want to get up and go, and that's fine. But the reality is that based off of the whole person of who you are, medical conditions, medications, all of that, then it might not be the best option. So we definitely are in agreement, and we definitely, all of us, we say, hey, come in for a consultation and let's see first what you have going on before we kind of go the route of even a relaxer. And so we know relaxers, they always say relaxers, damage your hair, which is not true. With the proper care, and relaxed hair can be healthy and strong, just like Cara said. Now, natural hair. Cara, how do we define natural hair?
I would define natural hair as not having any type of chemical change.
Me too.
That mean that it's out of your scalp. That mean you haven't had any type of color services, any type of smoothing, any type of anything to loosen that curl pattern. I would consider that hair natural. But a lot
Yeah,
of times that's just kind of interchangeable. People say, "Oh, my hair is natural," but they've used other different services or other products to
yeah,
um, break that hair down or to color that hair. So it's not necessarily considered natural. Uh,
that's
So
true. I agree. I agree with your definition. I think anytime that the hair strand, the hair has been manipulated in any kind of way, chemically, then I feel like at that point, because even times, people have used different smoothing systems because stylists have told them, hey, this is fine, this is just gonna, it's not doing it anything, it's not going to permanently change it. And just because it may not permanently change it, doesn't mean that it's not gonna alter the hair shaft at any kind of way. So that is indeed a chemical. So yes, for being able to understand the difference between someone that is relaxed and someone that's natural, right? And natural hair is too hard to manage is a myth. It can be time consuming, but with the right knowledge, it becomes second nature. Again, this is why we are big on consultations, because you want to make sure that you're using the right products, you're doing the
once
right thing. We talked
product,
about, if you missed our last podcast, go back and watch the podcast. We talked about products. We talked about using the right products, right, for your curl pattern, for your hair, and that's super important. So sometimes what we call unmanageable is just we don't have the proper knowledge to take care of our hair. So that makes the difference. So being able to know how to take care of it will debunk the myth that natural hair is too time consuming. Now, is it going to be work? It's going to be work like anything. If you're relaxed, it's going to take work.
yep.
Right. But it doesn't mean that it's impossible for you ever to do. You're not natural unless you do the big chop, right? Which is not true. So transitioning gradually is still valid. And so
Mhm.
that takes us to our next conversation. And we're going to talk about transitioning hair and like, what does that look like? And so we know that once you've already been chemical treated, that's like back in the day, right? We used to do the curls. Now I didn't have one, but your mom, your grandma, even you might have had a curl at one point. I just worked in the salon, so I used to have to rinse them out and different things like that. But even with the curls, that back in the day, that's a chemical.
Right.
So because that's the chemical, you have to grow it out. There's that transitioning phase, there's that touch up phase if you want it. Color, the same thing.
Mhm.
That phase of it growing out and coming out. So Cara, what do you know about transitioning, or how do you kind of help your clients through transitioning? And I'll share how I do mine.
Well, normally when I do transition, I pretty much have to figure out the end result. Like, what are we trying to do, and what is going to be their process of transition? So, some people go and they say, "I'm just going to do the big chop." Some people may have lengthy hair and just totally against that, and they're
Yeah,
not comfortable cutting all their hair off. So a lot of times you will have to tackle two different patterns on that head.
yeah,
And a lot of times that takes a lot of care. They will have to visit the salon often because what we don't want to do is have the relaxed hair and that natural hair, because the natural hair, it tends to twist and turn, and naturally it's a coil, so it will turn, and it
yeah,
will turn to the point where it may snap that relaxed hair if you're at home and you're not making sure that that hair is moisturized enough, and that you're constantly trimming that hair so that the old hair is, coming off if you choose not to be the big chop. And you
right.
want to figure out what styles that you're going to do and what protective styles you're going to do in between your transition. So are you going to be a weave girl in between the transition? Are you going to do natural styles? Maybe you may do some twist outs. You may also manipulate it and do sets. I do a lot of sets sometimes when the hair is transitioning. I may do some flexi rod sets, or I'll do my
Okay.
rodded sets, and then that way it keeps the hair, it mimics the curl that the client may want while that hair is transitioning from that natural state, and we're actually still working with that straighter ends, and we can manipulate it until we're actually able to cut off the straight hair until you're fully natural. But those are some of the things that I've done over the years in terms of transitioning that hair from natural to straight without actually cutting all the hair off.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
Hey, Angel. Um, that's a good point. So, one thing we know though is like Cara said from the very beginning, she talked about the texture changes, and I think that's important to understand that you are dealing with two different textures. So it may be it's going to be curlier at the root, which means it's going to be straighter at the ends. And I think that's why the salon business are important, or just having the knowledge, right? Because there is going to be that line of demarcation. There's going to be that line between where your natural hits and where the relaxed part hits, and if you don't handle that with care, you can cause a lot of breakage.
Mhm.
So that is extremely important. That as you are transitioning out, those of you that like you went back to relax and now you want to go, you want to go natural again. It's very, very important to understand that line of demarcation, what it looks like, even with color,
Mhm.
and Carl, she can speak to this a little bit more in a minute, like about like even with color, because color is the same thing, and a lot of times as your hair is growing out of that color, and you may experience some breakage right at that line of demarcation. So it's very important that you take care of it properly. A lot of times people think because their hair is natural and they feel like it's a lot stronger that you can do whatever you want to it, but we talked about this, in our last slide, like that curlier hair is actually a little bit more fragile, but also is relaxed hair. Relaxed hair is fragile. So as you're growing it out, your hair is extremely in a fragile place. So you're gonna want to do probably a lot more protective styles, but you want to be very careful when you are detangling your hair. You want to be very careful that you're not snatching it and ripping it. You're not doing styles that are going to take the hair out, because your hair is very fragile in the stage when you are going through a transition from relaxer to natural, and even from in color. It's going to be very fragile, so you got to be careful. Cara, can you speak about the color?
Well, I think a lot of times the coloring process is all about timing when it comes to when you should visit the salon.
Yeah,
Sometimes they'll get the color and they'll feel like, oh well, I could just pop in the salon whenever I want to. But it's really you really have to pay close attention to the time period that you receive that color, and if you need to visit the salon for another application, or we call a refresh
yeah,
of that color, so that you won't go too long to where you do have that line of demarcation, and you can cause overlapping because you waited
yeah,
too long to come back and get your service done. So it's very good to work with your stylist and understand, when is a good time for me to come back. How often am I going to be? I have to visit the salon to keep this color up,
yeah,
because color is a responsibility. This is responsibility as a relaxer. You still have to visit that salon on a regular basis to get your treatments, and make sure that we know what's going on with that hair in between your
yeah.
cycles, getting the next process done. So that's just something to keep in mind. A lot of times they just want it because it's beautiful and it's cute, but it's definitely a commitment, and you have to really make sure that you stay on cycle, especially if you're going to be in the blonde world. You want to definitely make sure that you're coming in, because once you get too much of that black or brown hair, and then you have to go back and do your retouch, you take the chance of it overlapping, and your stylist not even being, I would say, she has to be a very skilled stylist to be able to make sure that that lightener doesn't overlap with the old lightener, and it can cause breakage. So you just make sure you have a schedule, make sure you stick to that schedule, and make sure you trust your stylist.
Yeah, Angel said, yeah, and for them to have a plan, it's not just color and never return. Absolutely.
Yes, for sure.
And I always look for that. I don't typically like to do like clients that just want to pop in and pop out
For sure.
as far as color, because I want to be able to, in majority of the time I've already been working with them to make sure their hair can actually handle the color before I do
Mhm.
color. And we're just, y'all, we're the Healthy Hair Studio. So you can, there may be other places that you go and you can make a same day appointment and you can do all the things and they're going to color and give you what you want, which is fine. And if that's what they choose to do, that's what they choose to do, and that's fine. But over here, we want to make sure you maintain your hair even after. We understand what relaxers, and even what relaxers, right? We understand like what relaxers and color looks like. We understand what it does to the integrity of the hair shaft. And so once that hair shaft has been compromised, then you have to make sure that you do everything that you can to maintain it, so that it doesn't break off. And so there's different things that you can do, making sure you're using the right products, making sure you're properly conditioning your hair, making sure you're using, like we talked about last week, leave-in conditioners, right? Using the right product, how
And
to
probably
seal.
thank you. That's a
Yes,
huge.
proper detangling is very, very, very important. And that's what I was saying. That's probably one of the biggest things. Sometimes we just take that brush, we just be ripping through our hair, ripping through our hair, ripping through our hair. Our children ripping through our hair, ripping through our hair. But you really got to take that time, to properly section it. Sometimes you're used to 4, but you might have a lot of hair and you need to do 6 sections. You may need
Yes,
8 sections,
for real.
whatever you need to do for yourself. Even when it comes to shampooing, I tell some of my clients sometimes too, you might have a lot of hair, so you may need to shampoo your hair in sections, just
Mhm.
to make sure that it gets properly clean. So it's nothing wrong with parting your hair into 4s and then cleansing it that way to make sure that your hair gets completely cleansed, because that's one of the most important parts. It is a myth that people say, you can wash your hair too much. No, if you're not using the right products, y'all, then you can. If you're stripping and stripping and stripping your hair, yes, it's not good for you. But if you're using moisturizing shampoos and conditioners and different things like that, then yes, you'll be just fine. So that's something to definitely keep in mind as it pertains to products. So yes, we talked about that transitioning aspect. And then what we kind of touched on a little bit, but we'll talk about what it's like to care for 2 textures of hair. And this is important because your roots, because they're growing out in the transition, may need more moisture than your ends, right? And so you may need to use a little bit, you're not used to maybe using product, but you may have to use a little bit more. I think that's the challenge. I think that I'll be honest, that a lot of people that get relaxers right now are having, is because many of us grew up at a young age relaxed,
Mhm.
right? And so even us being adults natural, you're used to doing things how you did things when you were um
Yeah.
when you were younger and you were
Mhm.
relaxed and you was like, well, my mama didn't have to do all that. Mama didn't have to put all that on there. She could just use this and it'd be fine.
Mhm.
Right. But being natural, it requires a different type of product. It requires a little bit more work. It requires us to take the product and you can't just take the product. Okay, this is my biggest pet peeve. You take the product, you go like this and you go like that, and
Mm.
then you say, it don't work. And I'd
Mhm.
be like, well, did you apply that
Open
product
your hair up.
through open the hair up, apply it to to the different strands of your hair. Like if you didn't do that, then you can't tell me that the product didn't work. But we're so used to, putting the product in the hands and we just go like this. We put it on the outside, and then we're like, my hair didn't curl up.
Mhm.
That's not how that works. You used to might be able to do that with that pink lotion back in the day, or that blue magic back in the day, and just go. But that's not how. When you're natural, your hair is curly, which means it takes a little bit more work for you to actually. It's like almost like you have to massage the
Mhm.
product through the hair shaft to make sure that it gets moisturized.
And then I think about an illustration of like a coil versus a straight. Even though our hair still has somewhat of a curl when it's relaxed, it's not as curly. So it takes more for the product to go around those strands because it's coily. It's
Yeah,
not just going to go on there and just lay flat like how your hair used to be relaxed. You have to put a little bit more effort into it. And I think that's the biggest thing, that yes, natural hair does have, you do have to put more effort into it. And it, but then the end result is rewarding, if it's for you. So
yeah,
that's just something to keep in mind, that, most people say, oh, it's just so much work. No, you just got to take a little bit more effort, and
yeah,
you got to take your time and make sure that you're actually getting the product into that hair and not just on the surface, because that hair has not been broken down. A relaxer does break down the hair, and the products normally come with a buffer. So those are different things that you have to consider, that your hair is in its natural state. There is no buffers, there are no other chemicals to break that hair down to make it more manageable. It is in its pure state, so you do have to do a little bit more work.
yeah. And I think that's the biggest part. We kind of just transitioned, but we didn't get the proper knowledge. And so that's why we're here, to help you all. A lot of times we're getting the people more often, and they're struggling and they have children. And so there is a struggle right now, between like the parents, like you only know what you know, which is why when they come in, we're like, we're not judging you. Sometimes people are afraid to take off their bonnets, you're afraid to take off your hats. And there have been some stylists that have probably judged you in the past, or turn you down, turn you away. I've had people that had like PTSD, and it's real. They almost had like a sense of PTSD, as it pertains to like, I know my hair is thick, I know it's too much, and I'm like, girl, you're fine. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and apologizing like for your hair, and I'm like, girl, you fine. Like, if I had one lady, she just act like her hair was like the worst of the worst. And I'm just like, girl, you are good. She was like, oh, when you get there, you're just gonna see how bad it is. And I'm like, when she came in, I'm like, this is not even bad.
Yeah, it's so
Fine.
bad, community.
Yeah,
It's such a self-love thing that we have to learn how to embrace. And the first thing people say, "Oh, my hair is so nappy. It's so nappy." It's like your hair.
yeah,
Like
no,
your hair is, it may be thick, it may be a little challenge to get it through, but it's just not nappy. And a lot of times they confuse nappy with the depth and the density of that hair. That hair is so dense and it's so thick. And that's the only thing that's really wrong. It's just so thick. You got to
yeah,
get through it. So lots of them are like, oh, my hair is so nappy. Like, no, you just have to separate this hair and
yeah.
comb it. If you comb it, you're like, okay.
And I
Like,
think
yeah,
that's the other part too, Carl. That's the big point too that you brought up, is combing it, right? Because we don't detangle our hair, we don't comb our hair. Like I've known people like we don't even touch the middle of the hair. You know what I'm
yes.
saying? So your hair is
Like,
not
act
really being
now.
manipulated at all. So if your hair is not really being manipulated, if your hair is not really being combed through, like you're gonna struggle like with your hair.
And it's
So
gonna
it's super important. Go ahead.
oh, no, no, I would say it's gonna hurt too.
Oh
If
yeah,
you
it's gonna
want
hurt.
to not do it, that's just, it's just part of it, you know what I'm saying? You have to think about when you used to get your hair done. Eventually, you got used to, getting your hair done because it was done. It became more manageable. It's just the point of, if you leave that hair compact, it's going to continue to curl and bind. So it's you're only hurting yourself by ignoring it. You have to address it and get through that hair. And
And I think it goes back to what we talked about a little bit last month too, as it pertains to like how we would grow up, we would do our hair every week, and so now
mhm,
we're not doing our hair. People are just, and those of you that are wig wearers, you're just slapping the wig
mhm,
on top of
mhm.
your hair with no braid down, no twist down, no moisture, and you're leaving it locked like that
Mhm,
for a long amount of time. Like your hair is not getting what it needs. It's not breathing. It's not moisturized.
mhm,
It's just rubbing up against that wig cap, that wig. Like, your hair is not going to be healthy. So if you choose to wear wigs, which is fine, make sure you're properly moisturizing. Make sure you're properly, I'm tacking it down. Even if you have to put your hair in like 4 parts, do some like 4 big twists or something, and then push it back. I would
mhm,
much rather you do that than just throwing the wig cap over top. Without properly, putting your hair down. So that's really, really, really important. And so, like I said, I think that how we grew up, how we used to do things versus how we do things now have definitely changed. Easy, with our children, I get it. We talked about this, and I'll just say it again because it's the reality of what it is. I got parents that do. You'll get your child a relaxer because you feel like it's less work. But if your child doesn't have that proper maintenance, if they don't know how to take care of it, if you don't know how to take care of it, then it
mhm.
can cause damage, or you're doing them at home, right? The biggest thing is the improper, what's the word I want to use? The improper application.
Application, yeah.
Yes, the improper application of relaxers is what really has caused a lot more damage over the years. We're not properly doing it right. We're not doing it right. So that's why a lot of times we're seeing the damage around the edges. People are losing their edges. People are losing the middle of their hair. You're putting it all over. It's fragile.
Mhm,
The porosity of the hair has shifted. It doesn't hold a curl. I had a lady that came in. I really believe her hair was being over processed. And so like she was just like, it's just straight all the time. And I'm like, yeah, you're gonna have to grow it out, at this point, because it's not really going to hold a curl like you want it to, because that shaft has been compromised so much.
mhm.
So same
And
thing
then
with,
definitely not knowing what's going on with them internally,
yeah,
because things are changing, and to be honest, products are not even made the same anymore.
they're
So
not.
the way you use the relaxant, it may have worked one way. They've changed stuff so much, over the years. Just to think about, if we've been in the industry 16 or plus years, just
Wow.
imagine how much has changed, with the product. So you may use that same product and say, "Oh my God, like it's not even. I used to use the olive oil,
Yeah.
No, it doesn't it? They're cutting corners. They're learning how to just make that money. So it may not even do the same thing to your hair anymore. And then what do? You go back and you put it on longer.
Yeah.
you or and you're saying, "Oh, okay, this is what I got to do to get it straight." And then honestly, you just over processing your hair to the point where it may not hold a curl at all.
Yeah.
It's just straight, straight hair. And you want that wrap look, but in all actuality, it's not gonna even wrap, because the hair is so broken down from just over applicate, or over applying it over and over and over.
Right. That goes
So
to what Angel said. She said over conditioning the hair that's broken down. Right.
yeah,
So it's already,
yes,
it ain't really gonna do too much anyway. And you're just trying to do all the things, the improper use of products. You got to be very careful, even being able, like seeing things online. If you don't know how to, I'm gonna put this out there. If you don't know how to properly use Olaplex, please don't use it.
oh
If
man,
you're not under a stylist care that really knows about the product, please don't use Olaplex. It's not the product for you. Do you know what I'm saying?
and then
Like
there's
you have to
somewhat it's
understand it.
several parts of it too,
Yeah.
to the effects. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to overtalk you,
No,
but
no, go ahead. No, you're fine. No, go
no,
ahead.
as far as with the Olaplex, they're using it, but there's parts to it. There's different ones that you need, and they're used for different things. And you can't just get them and just use them without having the knowledge of knowing what they do. And
Yeah.
so a lot of times they'll just get one, three, and four, and then use that. But then you may need to use, the other numbers also,
Right.
based on the texture of your hair and ultimately the issue that you're having with your hair. And you
And
don't know that
it is
because you're
even
not a
for your hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even
Go
if it's even good for your hair, like,
ahead.
sometimes we just use products because we see it, and then like they'll come in and they'll be like, well, this is what I've been using or this is what I've seen. But sometimes just because you see it and read it and it might be good for somebody else, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that you need to. So this is why it's extremely important, to make sure that if you are going to use certain products, be under the stylist care. But that's just one that comes to mind. And I'm not saying that Olaplex is a bad product. What I'm saying is that that's a product that I always tell my clients to make sure that you are under a stylist care. I tell anybody, even if you're not my client, be under a stylist care if you're going to use the product, to make sure that this, one, is the product that you need, and two, that you're using the products correctly. We talked about that on the last month, and this is just to kind of help you guys. Last month we talked about just making sure you're using products properly, because
Mhm.
sometimes it's not that the product is not good for your hair, it's just not using, it's just not being used properly.
Mhm.
So that plays a big role. But relaxed hair, natural hair, whatever you choose to be, you can be healthy. It's all about your lifestyle, your maintenance level. What does that look like for you? We asked those questions. I had a client the other day, and we were just trying to navigate, and she was just like, I get up at 4:30 every morning. And so I was like, oh, maybe we don't need to do this style, because you really don't have a lot of time. If we do like a curly something, we do something where there's a partial and your hair is being left out. Do you have are you able to keep up with this? She needs something that's a little bit more low maintenance. So being able to have that relationship with your stylist, to where they're able to help you navigate through that. And so we're here to give you those questions. So if you got questions, yeah, feel free to reach out. The Healthy Hair Chat, we actually have an email, so healthyhairchat@gmail.com. You can always email us. You can go to the website and leave us a message. Ask your questions, and we'll come back and answer them. If anybody had any questions today, you can drop those in the chat as well, so we can answer them. If you're watching the replay and you have a question, drop it in the chat. We'll inbox you back
Mhm.
with the answer about it, what that looks like. But we really wanted to kind of just bring some awareness to that natural and relaxed. What does that look like? If it's good for me, if it's not good for me, because that's super important. Being able to recognize that, and then understanding if you decide that you don't want to be relaxed anymore, transitioning, what that looks like. Is it, just the best practices for that as well. Car, you have anything?
Oh, I was also going to say, like, your hair journey is just that, it's yours. So you have to determine what process is best for you. I think a lot of people went natural because of the buzz and because of they
Yeah,
may have seen somebody else do it, but it doesn't necessarily match their lifestyle or their needs. So that's a huge thing that people have to take into consideration when it comes to your hair. You have to do what works best for you. So if you do need a relaxer and your hair is in a healthy state where it can um, take the chemical, and you don't have any going on internal, or you're not on major medications, it is something to consider, as well as if you choose to be natural, that you're taking the proper steps that you can manage your hair. Because some people are natural and they're just over it. They're completely over it because they're just like, I have no clue what to do with my hair.
yeah.
I don't do hair.
Oh, Car,
Man.
really quickly though, because talk about the fact that you can be natural and your hair be damaged. You know,
Oh,
so just
yes.
because you're
Oh,
natural doesn't mean that your hair is healthy either. Go ahead, Car.
mm-mm.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people come in and they say you're natural, and they may have never had salon care, and you get in that hair and you straighten it out, and you literally need about 4 inches cut off because it's all dead hair, it's all split, it's all
Yeah.
broken. It looks great in a puff, or it looks great when you have a low maintenance style, a twist style, or you've been putting the curling gel on it, and you're like, oh, my hair is so, yeah. But then when you go to straighten it to really see the truth it tells on you, and it'll tell you right then and there if that hair has been moisturized properly, if it has had proper trims. And a lot of times that's why people are afraid to come. They are afraid to come to the
Yeah.
salon because they don't
That's
want the
true.
truth. They're like, I'm just gonna keep curling it and putting it up in a bun, and and wear my puff, and like, no, you really need to come in and do the right practices so that your hair is truly healthy in its natural state, and you're not just piling different product on it, and that hair is really, really fragile. That's a lot of times when you do have all the balls popping off when you're at home detangling and stuff because that hair is so broken down. And they say, well, I get so much breakage. Like when I comb my hair at home, it's just all these little balls and stuff. It's because the hair is severely dry and it hasn't been treated properly. So
Yeah,
those are some things to keep in mind, to get with the stylist that is informed and, know what they're doing, and they can assist you along the journey and you don't have to just figure it out on your own.
that's good. All right, y'all. So this wraps up what we wanted to talk about today at the Healthy Hair Chat. Our other two stylists are not here. They're not here with us today, but we love them so much, and they gotta do what they gotta do. Um, Appreciate them. They are Carolyn and Angel. Those are the other two counterparts of the Healthy Hair Studio and the Healthy Hair Chat. But we were glad we were still able to come on and talk to you guys today, just to give you guys a little information about natural and relaxed hair, just in case you had any questions about that. And we'll be back next month. We're here every first Monday at noon. So
Yeah,
make sure you join us, bring a friend or two. You never know when you see us do a pop up. So look for some flyers for some pop up lives we're gonna do. Love you, Angel. Some pop up lives that we're gonna do um, soon, just to keep you guys informed. And we're just here like as a collective of Black stylists. You know the stigma of what it is and what it's become about what the salons look like. We know what's out there, and they're like, we don't shampoo no more. We don't, come. We see all the things. I posted something the other day, like come with
mhm,
your hair shampoo, come with your hair like this. We don't have any type of rules about how you're supposed to come. We just need you to show up, and
yes,
we're going to handle the rest. And we're here to help you on your healthy hair journey. This is big for us. It's more than the money. I tell people, like, I mean, honestly, you couldn't pay for the amount of time that we stand on our legs and education and things that we do. Like, it's just not enough money to even compensate.
yeah,
Uh, we love what we do. We are super passionate about helping people and helping families. We're big on families. We're big on helping parents take care of their children's hair. We offer one-on-ones to parents to help you with your child's hair. I have one coming up this week. I'm excited about being able to sit and talk with a parent and a daughter to be able to kind of navigate through their hair journey and making sure that they're informed and both of them. Be on the lookout. We are doing our Healthy Hair Boot Camp, y'all, again this year. So be on
yes.
the lookout for the flyer. We're going to have the save the date that's going to go out soon so that you can secure your seats and be in the room. So that's all I have today. Cara, do you have anything?
Yes, I have a couple other things, and you always downplay. You're not just a hairstylist, you are a trichologist. So you can study the scalp, you have the information, you have the holistic information. So when you come into the salon, it's just not stylist that has a lot of years of experience. We also have someone that has dedicated a lot of training, a lot of time into studying the scalp and studying scalp conditions. So she can look into and basically solve a lot of your problems that you're trying to figure out on your own. And this also to just bring a little bit of awareness to this is Autism
Yeah.
Awareness Month. I forgot to be, I
Good,
probably mentioned it in the beginning,
good,
but I
good.
to bring it up just one more time because there is a stigma and for autism and what that looks like. And I think a lot of times people think that because you have your conditions like you have your cerebral palsy and you have your Down syndrome, and those are visible disorders that you can see, but autism is not necessarily something that's visible. It does come on a spectrum, and it's a very broad spectrum. And because of those things, you cannot see autism a lot of times. It's basically them struggling with different challenges with social skills and different types of repetitive behavior. And sometimes they can be nonverbal. I think what most people are most comfortable with is the level 3 autism that is considered nonverbal. So they normally say, oh, it's hardly autistic. They can talk, or they can do this, or they can do that. But there are different levels of autism, and those levels they come with different type of support and different type of issues that that child may have.
Yeah.
So to bring a little bit of awareness of how to deal with a child that has autism and how to service that child You just have to take, I always tell that because I have a child myself. My child does have level 2, and she is borderline level 3, so she has to have substantial support. It's a lot of times it could be emotional regulation. That's what my child deals with. She is not able to regulate herself emotionally. She does have to be redirect often, but she is a very quiet child. Sometimes you get the child that may have, the sensory issues with sound. They may do the rocking, they may do the chatting, they may do the flapping of the hands. So because of this, the disorder is such on a large spectrum. They can fall anywhere in between. It doesn't just look one way. But some of those things you can do is just basically when I address styling my child's hair, I make sure that I'm in a very calm place. Just address it in a place where I'm not rushing her. I'm not like, let me hurry up and get you shampoo because I got other things to do. I really create a quiet space for her. She likes the sound of like the rain. So I put like the rain videos on for her. I may find something that's a sensory toy for her. She does like to hold her doll babies, and she will hold those babies, and she will kind of rub them, and because a lot of times they call it interest focus. So a child may have interest focus, and her focus is baby, which most little girls like doll babies, but hers is she likes really small ones, and she'll collect them all, and she'll just collect them and line them up and things of that nature. So that is her fixation. And it varies from child to child what they fixation may be. But I would suggest you create a atmosphere where that child is very calm. It's very soothing for them. Use that as a time to connect with them. Don't just take it as I just need to wash your hair and get it over with. Do focus on getting the proper type of brushes and combs to detangle their hair, because it can be very stressful for them. A lot of times they enjoy water, but they definitely don't want to get wet like in their eyes and stuff. So they may panic. They may panic from it. So just trying to find the best way with your child, because each child is different. You have to find out what works for your baby and then create an environment for them so that it's not a struggle. Some like I call them iPad babies. They may like to have their iPad while they're shampooing their hair. You may have some that you may have to not use a brush. You may have to use like a cloth or something to kind of get that shampoo in there. And they may flinch, but the main thing is just staying calm, making sure you're giving them enough breaks so that you're just not going through the process. You do have to give them breaks so that they can kind of regulate themselves and then start again. But those are just some tips that you can incorporating your shampoo regimen with your baby if you have a child that suffers with that condition. And definitely, you can come to the salon. I'm used to dealing with children with special needs. It doesn't bother me. It's just one of those things that if you have questions, we have shampoos that are very gentle. That really works on their hair, and that's another thing is being very sensitive to fragrance. A lot of times they have sensory issues, so having stuff with a lot of strong perfumey or harsh chemicals can irritate them. So you just want to make sure you get something that's very just very light in scent, or just a very gentle product to use on them when going through that shampooing process. But that's it. That's all I have. That's it. Anything else you got to say?
No, that was really good, Car, and
Oh,
I'm gonna no, that was really good, Car. And like she said, like we are equipped. She's equipped. Some other ones, pretty much everybody in the salon is equipped to deal with children that have special needs. So just give us a call, talk us through it. Just give us a heads up, just don't drop your child off and then just go, but just give us the heads up and have the conversation so that we can make sure that we deal with them appropriately, and give them the attention. We can make the adjustments that we need to make ahead of time. We've also done things where we've done things on like other days and just shifted the time, if we can, if we're available, to make it conducive for the child and for the parent, again, because we want the child to have healthy hair. We understand the stress and the strain that it comes from just having to, take care of your children that have special needs. That is a big thing for me. I know it's a big thing for everybody else, but it's definitely big for me. I'm big on the caretakers. I understand that the children, and other people go through, but I am big even on the caretakers and the stress and the strain that they can have on you. And so, whatever we can do to kind of make that process easy for you, we're here to do that, and we're here to help. And so if you do have a child that has special needs, and you're just trying to figure out something, and even if it's nothing more than just teaching how to do ponytails and doing something simple or whatever that looks like, I always tell parents, even if they have small children or children with special needs, like, don't come in here with these complicated hairstyles.
Yeah.
Gonna
Oh, they can't sit
a long
through
time.
it.
I'm gonna hurt, but we'll make it look beautiful. We're gonna make it look age appropriate. But just give us the heads up, and we'll just help you navigate through that. But that was definitely a good segment. And so if you have a friend or two that are struggling right now or need some assistance, make sure you guys tap in with us at the Healthier Studio. And so that's all we have today. Thank y'all so much for joining. We'll see you all next month, the first Monday at noon. And be on the lookout for our pop-up sessions where we're just teaching you how to maintain your hair. All right. So we love y'all.